The spaces between words hold more truth than the words themselves. This revelation struck Dr. Eleanor Voss at precisely 3:17 a.m. as she stood in her laboratory at the Center for Advanced Cognitive Studies, staring at brain scans that shouldn't exist. The patterns illuminating the neural pathways of subject 137 defied every established principle of neurolinguistics, showing more activity during silence than speech. What if our entire understanding of human communication was fundamentally flawed? What if, as Nietzsche once suggested, those who speak the most have experienced the least? The monitor bathed her face in a pale blue glow, the only light in the otherwise darkened lab. Outside, Cambridge slept under a blanket of autumn fog, unaware that within these walls, the very nature of human consciousness was being re-examined. Eleanor took a deep breath, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. Documenting this discovery would upend decades of research, including her own. Her career, built on the premise that linguistic complexity indicated cognitive advancement, would collapse. But the data couldn't be denied. "Delete it," came a voice from the doorway. She didn't need to turn to recognize Director Harmon's distinctive baritone. His reflection appeared in her monitor, tall, imposing, with silver temples that caught the blue light like strips of moonlight. "I can't do that, James," she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "You know what this means." "I know exactly what it means," he replied, stepping into the room. "It means the Rothschild Foundation pulls our funding next quarter. It means the military applications we promised become theoretical rather than practical. It means we've spent 8 years chasing the wrong hypothesis." Eleanor finally turned to face him. "It means we've been looking at communication backward. It's not about what people say, it's about what they don't say. The spaces, the silences. That's where meaning resides." His expression hardened. Poetic, but hardly scientific. "Then explain this," she challenged, gesturing to the screen where subject 137's brain activity pulsed in vibrant constellations. When asked to articulate complex emotional experiences, his higher cognitive functions actually decrease. But in the pauses between responses, we see unprecedented levels of activity in the prefrontal cortex and the temporal lobe. He's processing more in silence than during speech. One anomalous subject doesn't. "It's not just him," Eleanor interrupted, pulling up additional files. "I've found the pattern in 17 subjects now. Different ages, backgrounds, linguistic capabilities. The phenomenon is consistent." Harmon's expression shifted from dismissal to something more complex, fear perhaps. "Who else knows about this?" "No one yet," she admitted. "I wanted to be certain before." The sudden power cut plunged the lab into darkness. Eleanor instinctively reached for her phone, but Harmon's hand closed around her wrist. "Don't," he whispered. "The emergency generators should have activated immediately." They hadn't. In the perfect darkness, Eleanor became acutely aware of sounds she normally filtered out, the hum of the ventilation system dying away, the soft ping of cooling equipment, and beneath it all the unmistakable sound of the laboratory door closing. Someone else had entered. "Dr. Voss," came a new voice. Female, unfamiliar, with a subtle accent Eleanor couldn't place. "Your research has attracted attention in certain circles. Who are you?" Eleanor demanded, trying to locate the speaker in the darkness. "Someone who understands the implications of your discovery," the voice replied. "Throughout history, those who recognize the power of silence have been systematically silenced themselves. The ancient Greeks had a term for it, oratus, the unspeakable truth. Medieval monks, who took vows of silence, reported experiencing what they called divine clarity. The Russian psycholinguist Lev Vygotsky theorized that internal speech, thoughts unexpressed, formed the basis of higher consciousness, but his research was suppressed under Stalin. Eleanor felt Harmon's grip on her wrist tighten. A warning. "What do you want?" she asked, the darkness. "The same thing you do, Dr. Voss. Truth." A small light illuminated the stranger's face. Angular, intelligent, with eyes that seemed to hold knowledge beyond their years. "Your discovery isn't new, Dr. Voss. It's ancient. What's new is your ability to prove it scientifically, at a time when humanity desperately needs to remember this wisdom." The woman stepped forward, the small light revealing her simple, elegant clothing and a pendant around her neck, a symbol Eleanor recognized from ancient text. The Seal of Solomon, said to grant wisdom and the ability to speak with animals. In 1963, the average human attention span was 43 minutes. The woman continued. By 2000, it had dropped to 12 minutes. Today it's less than 8 seconds, shorter than a goldfish. We've become a species drowning in words, but starving for meaning. Your research could change that. Eleanor's scientific skepticism battled with undeniable curiosity. You still haven't told me who you are. The woman smiled. My name is Sophia Chambers. I represent the Keepers of Silence, an organization that predates modern civilization. We've preserved the knowledge of what happens in the spaces between words for millennia. And now, we need your help. This is absurd, Harmon interjected. Eleanor, this woman has clearly breached our security. We need to alert, the security systems are temporarily offline. Sophia said calmly. No one will be interrupted for precisely 7 more minutes. Just enough time for Dr. Voss to decide whether she wants to hear what I have to offer. Eleanor pulled her wrist free from Harmon's grip. Something about Sophia's presence commanded attention, not through force or charisma, but through a peculiar stillness that made everything else seem unnecessarily frantic. 5 minutes, Eleanor conceded. Sophia nodded, reaching into her pocket to withdraw what appeared to be an ordinary river stone, smooth and gray. She placed it on the desk beside Eleanor's computer. This was found in the cave of Altamira in Spain, alongside the famous Paleolithic paintings. Carbon dating places it at approximately 35,500 years old, Sophia explained. The paintings themselves have been studied extensively, but this stone, and 17 others like it, were largely ignored. Unremarkable, until we examined the microscopic scratches on their surfaces. Eleanor picked up the stone, feeling its cool weight in her palm. Those scratches, Sophia continued, when analyzed with electron microscopy, reveal patterns identical to the neural pathways you've observed in your subjects during moments of silence. Your subject 137's brain scans match the pattern on this stone with 97.4% accuracy. That's impossible, Eleanor whispered, though something deeper than her scientific training told her it wasn't. The earliest humans understood something we've forgotten, Sophia said. The true function of language isn't to express thoughts, it's to conceal them. Real communication happens in silence, in the spaces where our authentic selves emerge from beneath the protective armor of words. Nietzsche understood this when he wrote that one who talks much has not yet experienced deeply. Those who truly understand remain silent, because language itself is inadequate to contain profound realization. The stone seemed to grow warmer in Eleanor's hand. Throughout history, Sophia continued, those who rediscovered this truth faced resistance. Socrates was executed for corrupting the youth by teaching them to question through silence rather than persuade through rhetoric. The medieval mystic Meister Eckhart was condemned for heresy when he wrote that nothing in all creation is so like God as silence. In the 20th century, the linguist Benjamin Lee Whorf was marginalized for suggesting that language constrains rather than expands consciousness. These are cherry-picked examples, Harmon objected. Correlation, not causation. Perhaps Sophia acknowledged. But consider this, every significant human breakthrough, from artistic masterpieces to scientific revolutions, emerged not from continuous discourse, but from periods of deep silence. Newton under his apple tree, Einstein visualizing himself riding a beam of light, Marie Curie in her quiet laboratory, Archimedes in his bath. The critical insights came not during debate or discussion, but in moments of stillness. Eleanor's scientific mind raced. It was true that the default mode network, the brain regions active during rest and quiet introspection, played a crucial role in creativity and problem solving. Recent studies had shown that the constant stimulation of digital communication was fundamentally altering these neural pathways, potentially limiting humanity's capacity for deep insight. Your research, Sophia said, has rediscovered something dangerous. The scientific evidence that human beings communicate more profoundly through silence than through speech. This threatens power structures built on rhetoric, persuasion, and information control. It challenges the foundations of advertising, politics, and social media. It suggests that our accelerating production of words is actually diminishing our capacity to connect. The lights suddenly flickered back to life. Harmon immediately moved toward the phone on the wall, but paused when Sophia spoke again. Your discovery will be suppressed, Dr. Voss, she said with quiet certainty. The implications are too destabilizing for too many powerful interests. Unless you accept our help. What kind of help? Eleanor asked, still clutching the stone. Protection, resources, and connection to others who have made similar discoveries in different fields, Sophia replied. The keepers exist to preserve knowledge, until humanity is ready to receive it. We believe that time is approaching. Harmon had reached the phone, Security to Lab 7, immediately, he barked into the receiver. Sophia seemed unconcerned. You have a choice, Dr. Voss. Stay and defend your research through conventional channels, which will end with it being discredited or buried, or come with me now. I can show you evidence that what you've discovered connects to findings in quantum physics, ancient meditative practices, and emerging theories of consciousness. Eleanor looked from Sophia to Harmon, and then to the brain scans, still glowing on her monitor. Subject 137, a retired philosophy professor, who had spent the last 20 years practicing Zen meditation. His neural patterns during silence showed activity in regions associated with insight, empathy, and integrated information processing that exceeded anything she'd seen in her 15 years of research. How do I know you're telling the truth? Eleanor asked. Sophia smiled. You don't. That's where trust begins. But consider this, in the silent space between my words and your thoughts, you've already felt recognition. Your body knows what your mind is still questioning. It was true. Despite the rational objections screaming through her mind, Eleanor felt a profound resonance with Sophia's words that transcended logical analysis. The sound of footsteps echoed in the hallway, outside. Security approaching. I need more time, Eleanor said. Time is precisely what we don't have, Sophia replied, extending her hand. The choice is binary, Dr. Voss. Stay and watch your work disappear, or leave and discover how deep the rabbit hole goes. The laboratory door burst open. 2 security guards entered, followed by a man Eleanor had seen only once before, at a fundraising gala, where he'd been introduced as a special advisor to the Rothschild Foundation. His eyes locked on the brain scans, displayed on her monitor. Dr. Voss, he said smoothly. I need you to step away from the computer. Your research has been deemed a matter of national security. Eleanor looked at the stone in her hand, then at Subject 137's brain scans. In the spaces between the neural spikes, in the silence between thoughts, lay a pattern she now recognized. The same pattern etched on the ancient stone. The same pattern she'd glimpsed in rare moments of perfect stillness, in her own mind. Dr. Voss, the man repeated, more firmly this time. Step away from the computer. In that moment, Eleanor understood what Nietzsche had meant. Those who talk much have not experienced. Those who remain silent have digested the truth. And sometimes, the most provocative act is simply being honest with yourself and the world. She made her choice. 10,000 miles away, in a monastery perched on a Himalayan cliff face, an elderly monk opened his eyes after 48 hours of uninterrupted meditation. He turned to his younger companion, who had maintained vigilant silence beside him. It has begun, the old monk said simply. The younger monk raised an eyebrow in question. The remembering, the elder clarified. Someone has rediscovered the silence. Is that good? The younger monk asked. The elder considered this question carefully before responding. It is necessary. Outside their meditation chamber, wind whistled through ancient prayer flags, carrying whispers across valleys and peaks to other monasteries, where other monks were also opening their eyes at precisely the same moment. A resonance was spreading, not through words or signals, but through the spaces between them, through silence. In Cambridge, the laboratory where Dr. Eleanor Voss had made her discovery, stood empty, her computer wiped clean of all data. No record remained of Subject 137, or the 17 others, whose brains had revealed the secret pattern. No trace of the research that had momentarily lifted the veil on humanity's most essential and forgotten capacity. But in an unmarked location, Eleanor Voss was speaking with others, who had glimpsed the same truth from different angles. A quantum physicist, whose experiments suggested consciousness existed in the space between particles. An archaeologist, who had discovered ancient chambers, designed specifically to produce particular qualities of silence. A composer whose most acclaimed work consisted primarily of precisely calculated pauses between notes. The evidence has always been there, Sophia explained to their gathering. In the phenomenon, psychologists call the tip of the tongue state, where we know something beyond our ability to verbalize it. In the strange power of unspoken truths to manifest physical symptoms as psychosomatic illness. In the fact that every significant spiritual tradition, despite their differences, emphasizes some form of silence practice. Eleanor studied the faces around her, people from different disciplines, cultures, and backgrounds, yet united by a common discovery. What happens now? She asked. An elderly man she recognized as Dr. Takahashi, the renowned neuroscientist, who had mysteriously disappeared 3 years ago, after publishing a controversial paper on meditation and brain function, smiled gently. "Now comes the difficult part," he said. "We must learn to communicate what cannot be communicated through words. We must find ways to help humanity remember what it has forgotten, that in the spaces between our endless chatter lies our only hope for genuine connection, insight, and evolution." "How?" Eleanor asked. "By creating conditions where people can experience silence without fear," a woman introduced as a former tech executive replied. "Modern humans are terrified of silence. They fill every moment with noise, information, distraction. Our nervous systems have forgotten how to exist in stillness. The average person now checks their phone 344 times per day," added another member. "That's approximately once every 4 minutes of waking life. The constant stimulation is rewiring neural pathways, making sustained attention and deep processing increasingly difficult. We're engineering ourselves away from the very capacity that makes us most human." Eleanor thought of Subject 137, the philosopher whose brain had first revealed the pattern. "We need to understand what's happening physiologically during these states of silence," she said. "If we can quantify and demonstrate the cognitive benefits, perhaps science alone won't be enough." Sophia interjected gently. "Those who profit from noise will simply incorporate your findings into their systems. Already, mindfulness has been co-opted as a productivity tool, rather than a path to deeper awareness. We need something more fundamental, a return to first principles," suggested Dr. Takahashi. "The recognition that language itself, our most cherished evolutionary advantage, has become our limitation. We invented words to connect, but they now separate us from direct experience, and from each other." Eleanor remembered Nietzsche's insight: "Who talks a lot, has not experienced. Who is silent, has digested." Perhaps the provocative truth wasn't just that silence contained more wisdom than speech, but that language itself had become a barrier to the very connection it was meant to facilitate. "We're not suggesting abandoning language," Sophia clarified, seeming to read Eleanor's thoughts, rather recognizing its proper function and limitations. "Words as pointers, rather than containers. Silence as the context that gives meaning to speech. Like figure and ground in perception," Eleanor mused. "Precisely," Dr. Takahashi nodded. "We've mistaken the figure for the reality, and forgotten the ground from which it emerges." As the discussion continued, Eleanor realized she had stumbled upon something far larger than a neuroscientific discovery. She had encountered a fundamental truth about human consciousness that spanned disciplines, cultures, and millennia. A truth preserved by the keepers of silence, and periodically rediscovered by those willing to pause in a world addicted to noise. The provocative truth was simple yet revolutionary. We had built civilizations on the premise that communication created connection, when in fact, true connection emerged from the silent spaces where we encountered each other beyond words. As the group dispersed to their respective quarters for the evening, Eleanor found herself walking alongside Dr. Takahashi, in a garden illuminated by moonlight. "You're wondering if you made the right choice," he observed. She nodded. "I've abandoned my career, my research, everything I've worked for, to preserve what that research revealed," he reminded her. "Sometimes we must let go of the ladder once we've climbed it." "But what if we're wrong?" she asked. "What if this is all just a beautiful delusion?" Dr. Takahashi stopped walking and turned to face her fully. His eyes, keen despite his age, seemed to look through rather than at her. During World War II, a Japanese Zen master, named Kodo Sawaki, continued to teach meditation while bombs fell around his monastery. When asked why he persisted in teaching silence amid destruction, he said, "In the space between breaths lies the truth that no bomb can touch." Takahashi paused. "We are not keepers of an esoteric secret, Dr. Voss. We are reminders of something every human being already knows, but has forgotten how to access." As if to demonstrate, he fell silent, his gaze steady and open. Eleanor found herself automatically filling the conversational void, preparing a response, a question, an intellectual parry. And then, with conscious effort, she stopped. She allowed herself to exist in the silence between them. What happened next defied her scientific vocabulary. In the absence of words, something else emerged, a quality of connection and understanding that transcended linguistic exchange. She sensed Takahashi's compassion, his own doubts,
his lifetime of pursuing this elusive truth through rigorous scientific inquiry. She perceived these things not as information transmitted, but as direct knowing. When words finally returned, they seemed almost redundant. "I understand," she said simply. Takahashi smiled. "Yes, you do." As they resumed walking, Eleanor realized that her research had only uncovered the neurological footprint of something far more profound. Subject 137's brain scans had revealed the physiological correlates of a state of consciousness that words could describe, but never contain. The provocative truth was that silence wasn't merely the absence of sound, but the presence of something else, a faculty of direct knowing that preceded and transcended language, a capacity for connection that humanity had gradually forgotten, as it became increasingly enchanted by its own verbal creations. In the monastery on the Himalayan cliff, the old monk gazed at the stars and whispered to himself, "The remembering has begun." Across the world, in laboratories, meditation halls, artistic studios, and unexpected moments of accidental quiet, others were glimpsing the same truth that Eleanor Voss had scientifically documented, that in the spaces between words lay the foundation of being human. The most provocative discovery was also the most honest. We had been looking for connection in all the wrong places. The path forward wasn't more sophisticated language, more nuanced discourse, or more abundant information. It was the courage to meet each other in silence, where no words could hide the truth of who we are. Provocative, because honest, Eleanor whispered to the night sky. "When you say speak less, you're not talking about sound, you're talking about the silence, in which the real is visible." In that moment, she knew with certainty that she had made the right choice. Some truths could only be preserved by those willing to step outside the systems that would deny them. Some revolutions began, not with proclamations, but with the profound quiet that allowed a different way of being to emerge. The stone from Altamira, with its microscopic patterns, matching Subject 137's silent brain, rested in her pocket, a tangible reminder that this understanding was neither new nor hers alone. It was humanity's oldest wisdom, waiting patiently to be remembered. In the provocative honesty of silence lay the seeds of a transformation not just in how humans communicated, but in how they experienced reality itself. Eleanor Voss had crossed a threshold from which there was no return, into the eloquent silence, where, as Nietzsche might have observed, true digestion of experience becomes possible. Around the world, others were crossing the same threshold, in their own ways. The remembering had begun.